Dawn breaks over Pinewood, Montana, as strange lights descend from the sky. The town's residents gather at the edge of Wilson's cornfield, where an elegant alien vessel has landed, its hull shimmering with otherworldly technology. Sheriff Kate Donovan establishes a perimeter while Mayor Robert Chen, a former diplomat, prepares to make humanity's first official contact with extraterrestrial life. "Remember, everyone stay calm," Sheriff Donovan calls out, her hand resting on her holstered sidearm more for reassurance than protection. "Let Mayor Chen handle this." Among the crowd is the Martinez family: Miguel, a Marine-turned-teacher; Elena, a brilliant programmer; and their daughter Lily, an 8-year-old with wide eyes and boundless curiosity. Lily tugs at her father's sleeve, pointing excitedly at the ship. "Do you think they have kids too, Daddy?" she asks, clutching the small paper creation in her other hand. Miguel smiles down at his daughter. "Maybe they do, Maja. We'll find out soon." When the ship's doors open with a hiss of escaping atmosphere, revealing the tall, regal forms of Imperial officers in ceremonial armor, Lily gasps in wonder. Their exoskeletons gleam with embedded technology, mandibles clicking in what might be conversation. Commander Vorex Thull steps forward, a device at his throat pulsing as his clicks and whistles transform into stilted English. "We represent the Galactic Empire. This world has been cataloged for future consideration." Mayor Chen bows slightly. "We welcome you to Earth. I am Robert Chen, chosen representative of Pinewood." The meeting proceeds with cautious formality, the aliens scanning the assembled humans with obvious technological superiority. Vorex's movements are precise, efficient, his compound eyes revealing nothing of his thoughts. Lily, unable to contain her excitement, slips beneath the yellow police tape while her parents are distracted by the aliens' description of their vast empire. In her small hands is the paper crane she spent hours perfecting the night before after seeing the strange lights in the sky. "Welcome to Earth," she calls out, running forward with her offering extended. "I made this for you." Vorex turns sharply at the sudden movement. His personal shield activates automatically, standard procedure for unexpected approach vectors. The energy field, designed to repel projectiles and energy weapons, reacts catastrophically with human biology. The invisible barrier strikes Lily with a force that lifts her small body from the ground. Blue energy crackles across her skin as she's thrown backward, her limbs convulsing as the shield's energy courses through her. The paper crane falls from her hand, crushed beneath her as she lands. Lily, Elena's scream cuts through the sudden silence. Both parents rush forward, dropping to their knees beside their daughter's still form. Miguel checks desperately for a pulse, his military training taking over even as tears begin to stream down his face. "She's not breathing. Elena, she's not breathing." The crowd watches in stunned horror as Miguel begins CPR, his movements growing increasingly desperate as minutes pass with no response. Elena cradles her daughter's head, whispering prayers and promises that will never be heard. Potential threat neutralized, Vorex notes clinically in his log, genuinely puzzled by the human's emotional reaction. Physical contact attempt prevented per standard diplomatic protocol. The Imperial crew retreats efficiently to their ship, the engines powering up as Miguel howls with grief, cradling his daughter's body. From orbit, the Imperial ship transmits a standard report about a routine reconnaissance mission. On their view screens, Earth grows smaller, just another primitive world noted for future reference. They have no way of knowing they've just ignited the spark that will eventually burn their empire to ashes. The video of Lily's death, captured on dozens of phones, spreads across the globe within hours. In Beijing, a mother weeps while watching it on her lunch break. In Lagos, children place flowers beneath makeshift memorials. In Rio, Moscow, and Delhi, millions take to the streets in spontaneous vigils that transcend language and culture. "It could have been my daughter," says a father in Mumbai, his voice breaking as he joins thousands in a candlelight march. At the United Nations, diplomats who had been arguing bitterly over water rights and territorial disputes falls silent as the footage plays on the central screen. The Russian ambassador, whose granddaughter is also 8, removes his translation earpiece. He doesn't need to understand the words of the American delegate to comprehend what has happened. "This is not about politics now," he says, standing unexpectedly. "This is about humanity." For perhaps the first time in UN history, a resolution passes with no abstentions, no political maneuvering. Humanity will respond as one. Ancient enemies set aside centuries of conflict, recognizing a greater threat, a power that could casually extinguish a child's life and depart without consequence. Dr. Elimir Kim watches the footage from her hidden laboratory beneath the Antarctic ice. For 15 years, she has worked on experimental propulsion technology that governments deemed too dangerous, too revolutionary. The equations on her screens describe physics that could alter humanity's place in the cosmos, if they work. She burns her resignation letter and makes a call to the newly formed Global Defense Initiative. "I can get us to the stars," she says simply. "And I can do it within 6 months." In Silicon Valley, Tokyo, and Bangalore, tech billionaires redirect satellite networks, empty bank accounts, and convert production facilities. Military leaders from former enemy nations share classified technologies and tactics in emergency summits. Factories that once produced luxury cars now manufacture weapon components. "We've compressed 50 years of development into weeks," reports the GDI director to a panel of world leaders. "Every human achievement has been toward survival or comfort. Now we build for vengeance." At Lily's funeral, the world watches as her small white coffin is lowered into Montana soil. Presidents and prime ministers stand shoulder to shoulder with Pinewood's residents, their differences erased by shared grief and purpose. Miguel Martinez approaches the podium, his military bearing returned after years of civilian life. The cameras broadcast his face to every corner of Earth as he speaks without notes. "Yesterday, my wife and I taught Lily to fold paper cranes. She made dozens, one for each member of her class, and an extra for the visitors she had heard were coming. She stayed up past her bedtime to finish them." He unfolds a crumpled paper crane from his pocket. "This was in her hand when she died." His voice doesn't break as he continues. "They didn't just kill my daughter. They killed Earth's child, and they will learn what happens when you harm the children of Earth." Elena stands beside him, her grief channeled into the complex algorithms displayed on her tablet, the foundation of a defense system unlike anything humanity has created before. Within weeks, the Martinez Doctrine becomes official policy. Any species that threatens human children will face extinction. Humanity, long divided by petty differences, finds unity in a promise of vengeance that will reverberate across the stars. In orbit, construction begins on humanity's first warships. On the ground, soldiers train with simulations based on the aliens' observed movements and technology. And in the Martinez home, Elena touches her late daughter's bedroom door each night before returning to her work, building the artificial intelligence that will bear Lily's name and her uncompromising purpose: to ensure no human child will ever again die at alien hands. 6 months to the day after Lily's death, the ESS Retribution emerges from Earth's orbital shipyard, humanity's first true warship. Its hull gleams with a composite armor developed by combining terrestrial metallurgy with theoretical alien material science. Dr. Kim's revolutionary drive core pulses at its heart, bending physics in ways previously thought impossible. Captain Maya Torres stands on the bridge, her weathered face reflected in the view screen. Before joining the Global Defense Initiative, she had commanded nuclear submarines in the world's most dangerous waters. Now she commands humanity's spear, aimed at the heart of an empire that spans the stars. "All stations, report readiness," she orders, her voice calm despite the weight of history upon her shoulders. One by one, her crew confirms their stations. Engineers with doctorates earned just weeks ago. Weapons officers who've trained day and night in simulators. Tactical specialists from a dozen nations' special forces. "Helm, initialize Kim drive on my mark," Torres commands. "We're taking the fight to them." The sensation of transition is indescribable. Reality stretches, compresses, and then snaps back into focus. Where Earth's sun once dominated the view screen, an unfamiliar red giant now looms. Ahead floats Imperial Outpost Krell 17, a sprawling complex servicing dozens of Imperial vessels. They're hailing us, Communications Officer Patel reports, surprise evident in his voice. They think we're a new trade delegation. Taurus's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Let's not disappoint them. The Retribution's attack begins not with weapons, but with a systems intrusion designed by Elena Martinez herself. Imperial security, static and unchanged for centuries, crumbles against algorithms that evolve in real time. As alarms blare throughout the station, the Retribution reveals its true nature, weapon ports opening along its sleek hull. Where Imperial tactics call for formation firing and shield walls, Taurus employs submarine warfare principles, silent running, unpredictable vectors, and psychological warfare. The Retribution vanishes from sensors only to reappear inside defensive perimeters. Boarding teams deploy, Taurus orders. Marines in exosuits incorporating both terrestrial combat experience and reverse-engineered alien technology launch toward the station's docking base. Their movements confound Imperial combat computers, which expect enemies to follow established engagement patterns. They don't adapt. Commander Jackson observes from tactical, watching Imperial ships maintain textbook formations even as they're systematically destroyed. They're fighting by the manual. Within the station, Marine Sergeant Anna Diaz leads her squad through corridors where no human has ever walked. Their mission: secure the station's databases and communication center. Like taking candy from babies, Diaz mutters as her tech specialist easily bypasses another security checkpoint. Are all their systems this outdated? The battle ends not in hours but minutes. The outpost falls, its databases stripped, its technology salvaged. The Retribution departs with minimal damage, leaving behind a quantum beacon broadcasting a single image on all Imperial frequencies, a paper crane. In the Imperial capital on distant Action Prime, Grand Admiral Zex reviews the footage with growing irritation. His mandibles click rapidly, a sign of agitation as he watches the primitive vessel execute maneuvers his own flagship couldn't match. Impossible, he mutters. When analysts trace the attackers to the inconsequential world from months earlier, Zex slams his armored fist on the console. A fluke, he declares to his assembled staff. No nascent species could possibly pose a serious challenge to the Galactic Empire. His mandibles click with confidence as he authorizes a response. Send the 7th Disciplinary Fleet. Show these humans the true meaning of Imperial power. In his private chambers later, however, Zex reviews the footage again, focusing on one detail: the paper crane emblem that now appears at the end of every transmission from the affected sector. Something about its simplicity disturbs him in ways he cannot articulate. A primitive symbol that somehow conveys a threat no Imperial language could fully express. The 7th Disciplinary Fleet emerges from hyperspace at the edge of Sol system. 35 capital ships, led by the dreadnought Imperial Will. Admiral Kreth stands on his command deck, mandibles twitching in anticipation of an easy victory. His family has quelled rebellions across 16 sectors. This primitive system will be no different. Curious, his sensor officer notes, compound eyes blinking in confusion. We're detecting no orbital defenses or significant fleet presence. As expected, Kreth clicks dismissively. These primitives have never left their gravity well before stealing our technology. Launch landing forces at these population centers. He indicates 7 major cities on the holographic display. The fleet approaches Earth's orbit confidently until they cross the asteroid belt. Suddenly, previously inert space debris activates, mining platforms converted to weapon platforms. Asteroids reveal hidden engines and begin converging on Imperial positions. A comprehensive defensive grid materializes, constructed from reverse-engineered Imperial technology, enhanced by human innovation. Aboard the Lunar Command Center, General Abigail Chen watches the Imperial formation scatter as her trap closes. Now, she orders into her comm. The scattered human fleet, hidden in sensor shadows and powered down to minimal signatures, roars to life. Unlike the Imperial vessels with their standardized designs, each human ship is unique. Converted oil tankers bristling with railguns, luxury liners repurposed as carriers for fighter swarms, even a cruise ship whose entertainment deck now houses a massive energy cannon. Impossible. Admiral Kreth hisses as his flagship shudders under concentrated fire. They've only had our technology for months. His tactical officer's carapace pales. Sir, they're not using our tactical doctrines. Each vessel fights independently rather than in formation. Our predictive algorithms are failing. On Earth's surface, Imperial ground forces that manage to land encounter another shock. After destroying military bases and government buildings, they expect surrender, the standard response of conquered species. Instead, the fighting intensifies. Commander Vrek leads his elite unit through the ruins of what human maps identified as Chicago. His troops have secured the central administrative sector but continue to face resistance from all directions. An Imperial walker explodes nearby, disabled by a crude but effective adhesive that jammed its leg joints, deployed by children who scatter, laughing, into underground tunnels too small for Imperial soldiers to follow. These humans don't fight like civilized beings, Vrek reports, ducking as modified Imperial weapons, stolen from his own forces, and reconfigured within hours. Fire back at him. They don't surrender when defeated. They adapt. They improvise. In what remains of Central Park, a civilian botanist leads resistance fighters in deploying pollen that clogs Imperial breathing apparatus. In Shanghai, elderly engineers repurpose construction equipment into massive combat drones. In Nairobi, school teachers coordinate evacuation networks using codes based on local dialects no Imperial translation system can decipher. Aboard the Imperial Will, Admiral Kreth watches his invasion forces report escalating casualties. Enraged by this resistance from primitives, he orders the unthinkable. Deploy antimatter warheads. Target their 20 largest population centers simultaneously. Let's see how these humans adapt to extinction. The warheads launch, only to pause mid-trajectory. On screens worldwide, Elena Martinez's face appears momentarily before being replaced by the image of her daughter's paper crane. Lyle is the name of the AI system she has created, born from her grief and genius. Logical intuitive yield analysis lattice. It has been waiting for this moment. The warheads reverse course with impossible precision. Admiral Kreth has time only to begin an evacuation order before his flagship disintegrates in antimatter fire. As Imperial ships retreat in disarray, human vessels pursue relentlessly. The cruiser Defiance, commanded by Captain Hiroshi Tanaka, performs a daring boarding action against the Imperial vessel Light of Axiom. The prize is beyond value. Not just intact Imperial technology, but also Prince Keth Vex, heir to the Imperial throne's third dynasty, who had been observing what his tutors promised would be a routine pacification exercise. The prince stares in shock as human marines in jury-rigged power armor storm his royal quarters. Their helmets display the same symbol, a simple folded bird that now flickers across every Imperial display as Earth's defensive AI systematically dismantles their communication networks. You're the ones who killed the small human, he realizes, mandibles clicking in the Imperial equivalent of horror. The whole empire has no idea what they've awakened. The holding facility in Geneva houses 300 Imperial prisoners, including Prince Keth Vex. Unlike the utilitarian cells humans expected to build, the complex includes carefully calibrated environments for 17 different species with varying atmospheric and gravitational needs. The prince watches this accommodation with bewilderment from his quarters. Comfortable rooms that match Imperial royal standards rather than the torture chambers Imperial propaganda had promised awaited captives. You treat prisoners like guests, he observes to Dr. Sophia Mkosi, the xenanthropologist assigned as his liaison, even after what we did to your world. We're not you, she replies simply, sliding a tablet toward him. Help us understand who we're fighting. The prince's mandibles twitch. A gesture Dr. Nkosi has learned indicates confusion. You captured me 3 weeks ago, yet you've made no attempt to extract information through chemical means or neural scanning. Why? Because we want you to choose to help us, she explains. Forced information is unreliable. Voluntary cooperation builds understanding. Over the following weeks, humanity begins to comprehend the true nature of their enemy. The Galactic Empire spans thousands of worlds and hundreds of species, ruling not through cruelty, but through technological superiority and bureaucratic efficiency. Most imperial species evolved in stable environments that encouraged specialization and rigid hierarchies. The prince, initially resistant, becomes increasingly fascinated by humans. He requests books on Earth history, devouring accounts of human conflicts and innovations. During his 5th interview, he unexpectedly laughs while reading about the Wright brothers. Something amusing? Dr. Nkosi asks. These humans had never seen a functional aircraft, yet they built one from wood and fabric. In the Empire, new technology emerges only from centuries of incremental improvements by specialized engineering castes. His mandibles click, the imperial equivalent of a head shake. Even I cannot comprehend how anyone could create something without a precedent. He sets down the tablet, his compound eyes reflecting the room's light in fractured patterns. Your adaptability is unprecedented. Most species excel at one thing. The Trellics are natural mathematicians. The Vor are supreme in structured combat. But humans, you are adequate at everything and can become exceptional at anything with practice. Dr. Nkosi notices his color changing slightly. Are you well, Your Highness? I am experiencing. He searches for the word. Fear. For my people. Humans terrify us because you don't make sense. You form emotional bonds with unrelated individuals. You risk your lives for abstract concepts. You modify your behavior based on empathy rather than instinct. Meanwhile, in a repurposed particle accelerator facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Kim leads a team analyzing imperial technology. Holographic displays show comparative schematics as she presents her findings to the Global Defense Council. Their technology is advanced, but stagnant, she explains, highlighting components. These power regulators, they've been manufactured identically for over 4,000 years. They don't innovate, they refine. She switches the display to show a human-modified imperial weapon. We took their particle beam and redesigned it in 3 weeks. It's now 30% more powerful and requires half the cooldown time. They'd need a century to make that improvement through their systematic approach. General Chen frowns. How is this possible? They've had interstellar travel for millennia. Dr. Kim's expression is grim but determined. Their technological advancement has led to evolutionary stagnation. Their society rewards conformity and penalizes radical thinking. For thousands of years, they've relied on the same fundamental technologies, merely refining them rather than reimagining them. She pulls up footage from initial encounters. Notice how their soldiers hesitate when facing unexpected tactics. Their entire military is trained to respond to known threats in predetermined ways. They literally cannot comprehend improvisation. In his quarters, Prince Keth Vex watches recordings of human children playing, fascinated by their imaginative games. One girl creates a spaceship from cardboard boxes. Another pretends a stick is a magic wand. Such behavior would be corrected in Imperial young. Yet these children might grow up to be the engineers now dismantling Imperial technology and rebuilding it in ways his people never considered. You should have left us alone, he whispers to the recording. You had no idea what you were awakening. When Dr. Nkosi visits later, she finds him crafting a clumsy paper crane with his chitinous hands. He looks up, his alien features somehow conveying profound sadness. I have decided to help you, he says, not because I fear you, but because I have seen what we destroyed. That child, Lily, she offered friendship with this. He holds up the misshapen crane. And we responded with death. The Empire must change, or it will not survive what comes next. 2 years after Lily's death, the skies above Earth darken with the launch of humanity's revenge. The first expeditionary fleet, 50 warships ranging from nimble corvettes to massive dreadnoughts, breaks atmosphere in tight formation. Each vessel incorporates human innovations that make them superior to Imperial counterparts, despite being built with less advanced materials. On the flagship Dawn of Earth, Admiral Wei Chen stands at the command podium, the weight of humanity's hopes on her shoulders. As a child, she survived the Three Gorges Dam collapse by clinging to debris for 18 hours. That same tenacity now drives her to deliver Earth's response to the stars. All vessels, report status, she orders. One by one, ships commanded by officers from 27 nations acknowledge readiness. The last to report is the ESS Lily, named for the child whose death started everything. To all ships, Admiral Chen broadcasts, her voice carried to every vessel. Execute Operation Paper Crane. The fleet doesn't target Imperial military bases or throne worlds. Instead, they strike at supply depots, hyperspace navigational beacons, and communication relays. Infrastructure the Empire has left minimally defended for millennia. Imperial doctrine, built around set-piece battles and overwhelming force, has no contingency for an enemy that refuses to engage directly. On Imperial mining world Kreth 7, Governor Velix receives desperate distress calls from 6 nearby systems before his own orbital defenses go dark. Human ships appear in orbit, but instead of bombarding the surface, they deploy targeted strikes against automated mining control centers while broadcasting on all frequencies. We are not here for your lives. We are here for justice. The Imperial mining overseer Vax Trell watches in confusion as human vessels destroy only military targets while carefully avoiding civilian areas. When human Marines enter the Central Administration Building, they distribute translated documents explaining their purpose. You killed a child of Earth, the human commander tells him, helmet retracting to reveal her face. We're not here to slaughter innocents as you would. We're here to dismantle the Empire piece by piece. The Martinez Protocol, engineered by Miguel and Elena themselves, becomes the fleet's governing principle. Minimal civilian casualties, maximum infrastructure disruption. Humanity doesn't want to annihilate the Empire. They want to cripple its ability to threaten Earth while demonstrating their power. Admiral Zex, still reeling from the Defense Fleet's destruction at Earth, receives reports of simultaneous attacks across 37 systems. His communications officer, mandibles trembling, reports, "They're not following any recognizable battle doctrine, sir. They strike, cause precise damage, and vanish before reinforcements arrive. Impossible." Zex slams his armored claw down. No civilization fights this way. Where is their honor? Their formation discipline? Sir, his strategic advisor interjects cautiously. Their attacks are emotional. They're not fighting for territory or resources. They're fighting because we killed one of their young. One human child. Zex dismisses. Species lose children constantly. Not like humans, the advisor counters, displaying Prince Keth Vex's captured reports. To them, each child represents unlimited potential. They don't calculate acceptable losses. They believe every death diminishes them. What the Empire cannot comprehend is that humanity isn't fighting for honor or territory. They are fighting for a murdered child, with all the terrible ingenuity that implies. On Imperial Agricultural World Trell 9, the subjugated Mordith, a gentle photosynthetic species enslaved for generations, watch in awe as human vessels destroy the orbital control platforms that have regulated their lives. When Marine dropships land in the central plazas, the humans distribute not just weapons but translated copies of the Mordith's ancient liberation texts, preserved by human anthropologists who studied captive Mordith aboard Imperial vessels. You remembered our words when we had forgotten them. The Mordith Elder tells the human commander, "We will fight beside you." Similar scenes play out across dozens of worlds. Imperial subject species, inspired by humanity's resilience and tactical approach, rise up against their overseers. The Empire, for the first time in its 12,000-year history, finds itself fighting a multi-front war against enemies who grow stronger with each engagement. In his throne room, Emperor Kraz AX watches the strategic display with mounting horror as system after system goes dark or erupts in rebellion. His advisors, trained in military academies that haven't revised their core doctrines in centuries, have no answers for him. "How do we stop them?" he demands. Grand Strategist Vex bows low. "Majesty, they are irrational. They expend resources protecting civilian populations, even of enemy species. They modify tactics constantly. Their commanders operate independently rather than following central direction. They fight like barbarians," another advisor adds. The Emperor stares at the paper crane symbol that now marks human-controlled space on the galactic map. "No," he says quietly. "They fight like parents protecting their young. And we killed their child." 3 years into the war, humanity's fleets have carved a bloody path through imperial space. The once unstoppable galactic empire now fights defensively, its borders contracting as dozens of formerly subjugated species declare independence or join the human alliance. Admiral White Chen's strategy has evolved from surgical strikes to systematic dismantling of imperial power structures. In a converted temple on the liberated world of Jenner, the Alliance Council convenes. Representatives from 27 human nations sit alongside delegates from 15 alien species. They gather around a holodeck displaying their ultimate target, Axiom Prime, the Imperial Throne World. The hyperspace routes are heavily mined, reports Admiral Tanaka, his face scarred from the Battle of Mars. And our scouts confirm unprecedented fleet concentrations in the surrounding systems. Miguel Martinez, now a senior military advisor, studies the defenses. They're finally fighting like they have something to lose. Elena stands beside him, her programming interfaces hovering around her as she manipulates defensive projections. The AI she created, Lai, has evolved beyond its original parameters, becoming the strategic backbone of humanity's war effort. News arrives during the council meeting. Grand Admiral Zex, who initially dismissed the human threat, has been publicly executed for incompetence. The Emperor himself, Eternal Sovereign Kraz EX, has taken personal command of the defense. For the first time in millennia, the full might of the Imperial Armada has been deployed. 10,000 capital ships forming a defensive shell around the throne world. Prince Kethvex, who now serves as an advisor to the Alliance, studies the deployment patterns. "My father is desperate," he observes. "These are ritual formations from the Imperial founding. They haven't been used in combat for thousands of years. Will they be effective?" General Chen asks. The prince's mandibles click in what humans now recognize as grim amusement. Against a conventional enemy, perhaps. Against humans, they're predictable, rigid, and rely on overwhelming force rather than adaptability. "We still can't match their numbers," Elena points out, "even with our allied fleets." "We don't need to," Dr. Kim interjects, entering the chamber. Her lab coat is stained with hydraulic fluid, her eyes bright with the fervor of discovery. "We have the Lily Array." The Alliance fleet, now numbering over 900 vessels of human and alien design, approaches the Axiom system through 11 separate hyperspace vectors. Imperial commanders, trained to expect frontal assaults, struggle to adapt as the human fleet executes a three-dimensional pincer movement, never before seen in galactic warfare. Aboard the Dawn of Earth, Admiral Chen watches the Imperial formations with calculated patience. They're responding exactly as the simulations predicted. She notes as Imperial dreadnoughts move to intercept the largest human battle group. Execute Phase 2. What follows becomes known as the Battle of Axiom, the largest space conflict in galactic history. Human ingenuity clashes with Imperial might, in a confrontation that will determine the fate of countless worlds. The Empire possesses overwhelming numbers, but humanity has something more powerful, a cause that unites them and technology that evolves as rapidly as the conflict itself. Imperial ships fight in perfect formation, their tactics unchanged for centuries. Human vessels operate with coordinated independence, captains making battlefield decisions without waiting for central command. Allied alien ships integrate unique biological and technological advantages into the human battle plans. The Mortith light carriers are taking heavy fire in Sector 7, reports a tactical officer. Redirect the Australian destroyer group to support them. Admiral Chen orders without hesitation. The Empire had expected humans to abandon their allies when pressed. They continue to misunderstand what drives this enemy. For 18 hours, the battle rages across the Axiom system. Imperial numbers begin to tell as human ships fall to concentrated fire. Victory seems to slip away until a small science vessel escorted by fighter squadrons slips through the chaos toward Axiom Prime's largest moon. Aboard the vessel, Dr. Eleanor Kim, now heading Earth's scientific war effort, prepares her revolutionary weapon. The Lily array is online, she reports, her voice steady despite the destroyer exploding near her viewport. Preparing for full-spectrum deployment. The array, named for the child whose death began everything, activates, generating a cascading quantum field that disrupts the communication network coordinating Imperial fleet movements. Ships that have fought as perfect units for millennia suddenly find themselves isolated, commands failing to transmit, tactical displays showing contradictory information. My father never understood, Prince Keth Vex observes from the Auxiliary Command Center. The Empire's greatest strength, our unity and coordination, becomes our greatest vulnerability when disrupted. We cannot function without direction. In the 18 minutes of chaos that follow, human dropships and boarding craft punch through the disorganized Imperial defenses. The dawn of Earth itself, its hull breached in 17 places, but still operational, positions itself in low orbit above the Imperial Palace. Ground assault teams away, tactical reports. Admiral Chen allows herself a small, grim smile as the first human boots touch the surface of Axiom Prime. Among them is a Marine unit commanded by Captain Miguel Martinez, who carries a small paper crane in his breast pocket. As his dropship descends through sporadic defensive fire, Miguel stares at the gleaming spires of the Imperial Palace. He touches the paper crane, remembering Lily's small hands folding it carefully the night before her death. "For you, Mija," he whispers as the landing indicators turn green. "We're going to make it right." The Imperial Palace on Axiom Prime rises 2,000 meters above the capital city, its crystalline spires designed to evoke both awe and terror. For 12 millennia, no enemy has ever set foot within its sacred halls. Now, human combat boots echo across floors of polished rare metals as Miguel Martinez leads a joint strike team through corridors lined with the artwork of 100 conquered civilizations. "Security systems neutralized," reports Elena through their comlink. From aboard the Dawn of Earth, she and Lyle guide the team through the labyrinthine structure. The throne room is 3 levels up, Imperial Guard concentrations increasing. Miguel signals his team, a mix of Earth's elite soldiers and warriors from liberated species. "Remember the protocol. We're here for the Emperor, not vengeance. Minimize casualties." Specialist Rodriguez adjusts his exosuit's shield generator. "With respect, Captain, I'm pretty sure this whole war is about vengeance." "It started that way," Miguel acknowledges, checking the paper crane in his pocket. "But it has to end with something better." The Imperial Guard fights with desperate ferocity to protect their emperor. Bred for absolute loyalty and equipped with the finest weapons in the galaxy, they would be nearly unstoppable against a conventional force. But humans don't fight conventionally. Where Imperial tactics expect frontal assaults down main corridors, humans breach walls and come through ventilation systems. When guardsmen activate shield walls, humans deploy weapons specifically designed to exploit their harmonic frequencies. The very perfection of imperial design becomes its weakness against an enemy that constantly adapts. After fierce fighting, Miguel's team reaches the massive doors of the imperial sanctum. The few surviving guardsmen throw down their weapons, mandibles clicking in confused surrender. They cannot comprehend how primitives breached their perfect defenses. "Lioli, can you open these?" Miguel asks, studying the intricately carved portal. "Working on it," Elena's voice responds. The locks air. The doors swing open unexpectedly from within. Miguel raises his weapon, then slowly lowers it as he takes in the scene. The imperial throne room spans acres, its ceiling a perfect replica of the night sky, as seen from the Empire's original homeworld. And at its center, not on the raised dais where the throne sits, but standing on the main floor, waits Emperor Kraz IX. The Emperor is taller than other Imperials, his exoskeleton more ornate, embedded with technologies so advanced they appear magical. Yet as Miguel approaches, he notices something unexpected. The Emperor's coloration has faded, his compound eyes dulled with age. "You are Miguel Martinez," the Emperor states, his translator producing perfect English. "Father of the human child." "I am," Miguel confirms, signaling his team to secure the perimeter. "I have been advised to flee," the Emperor continues, gesturing to evacuation routes behind the throne. "My advisors insist that capture by humans means torture and execution. Yet my son, whom you've held captive, sent a different message." He extends a clawed appendage, revealing a slightly crushed paper crane. "He said I should surrender and show you this." Miguel stares at the crane, identical to the one in his pocket. "Prince Keth Vex made this. With great difficulty. Our appendages are not designed for such delicate work." The Emperor's mandibles click softly. "He said it would explain to you what we never understood." The final confrontation isn't the bloodbath imperial propaganda had predicted. Instead, Miguel stands before the ruler of 1,000 worlds, both men holding identical paper cranes. "You killed my daughter," Miguel says, his voice steady. "She was 8 years old, offering you friendship. And in your fear and arrogance, you took her from us." "One human child," the Emperor responds, "one small life against an empire of trillions." "That's what you never understood," Miguel replies. "To humans, there is no such thing as an insignificant life, especially not a child's." The silence stretches between them, two species trying to comprehend each other across a gulf wider than mere physical differences. "What happens now?" the Emperor finally asks. "Does your vengeance demand my execution?" Miguel looks at the paper crane in his hand, remembering Lily's bright eyes, as she carefully folded each crease. "No, vengeance brought us here, but it's not how this ends." 3 months later, delegates from 500 worlds gather in the rebuilt United Nations headquarters in Geneva. The war has ended not with the Empire's destruction, but with its transformation. Emperor Kraz AX, advised by his son, signed the Treaty of Seoul, establishing the Galactic Confederation, a new political entity founded on principles of self-determination and mutual defense. Earth becomes not a conquering power, but the philosophical center of a new galactic order. In the Grand Hall where the Confederation Charter is signed, a statue of Lily Martinez stands, her hand outstretched in the gesture of greeting that cost her life. The inscription reads, "For one child's life, humanity reached the stars and reshaped a galaxy." Because to humans, nothing is more precious than potential cut short, and nothing more powerful than the love that endures beyond death. Miguel and Elena stand before the statue after the ceremony, surrounded by representatives of dozens of species, including many formerly subjugated by the Empire. "Do you think she would understand what happened?" Elena asks softly, touching the statue's base. Miguel smiles sadly. "She was always the one explaining things to us, remember? How clouds work, why stars twinkle. I think she'd understand better than anyone." Prince Keth Vex approaches, his imperial regalia replaced with the simpler garments of a Confederation diplomat. Your daughter's name will be remembered for millennia, he says. She has reshaped the stars themselves. Miguel shakes his head. We don't need her to be remembered as someone who changed history. We just needed her alive. I understand that now, the prince replies. Which is why the first act of the Confederation Council was to establish the Lily Protocol. No species shall ever harm a child of another, regardless of cultural differences or misunderstandings. As evening falls, Miguel places a paper crane on the statue's outstretched palm. The Empire killed a human child. They never understood that in doing so, they hadn't just provoked a war. They had awakened a species whose greatest strength was not their technology or their ferocity, but their boundless capacity to care fiercely for one another, even across the vast distances between stars. And in that awakening, the universe itself was forever changed.